All right, welcome back, all you beautiful people. This is the Voidcast. We have a long list of things to talk about today. Hopefully, we get to all of them. Thank you so much for joining in. My name is Versed Hippie. I am your host. You can check out my private channel, Versed Hippie, on YouTube. All the socials are down there in the link. It's a bit of a hectic world we're living in now. We're here just talking it out, trying to live our best lives and enjoy what we can while we still have it. And we really appreciate everybody for joining in. I would really love for you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, comment, do all the things that we need for the interaction, because the algorithm is not kind to people that like to speak their mind. With that being said, so this Minnesota bill, Hanky Yankee had brought it to my attention. I don't see any issue with it. I mean, it basically allows people of any migrant status, whether it be legal or illegal, to get proper vehicle training and allow them to operate motor vehicles more safely. And it also allows for the state to better keep track of them in case of any traffic stop, or if they need an address for that person on file. It basically gives the state an easier way of tracking which people are capable of driving, and it also keeps track of where those people might commonly be or live in case there's an accident, hit and run, etc. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass the torch off on to him, see what his take is on the whole thing.
So, as a conservative myself, and speaking on behalf of my friends of the Voidcast page, if you come here illegally, you don't get a driver's license. Unacceptable. We're moving away from the Constitution. It just doesn't make any sense to me how we're okay with something like this happening.
So do you want to elaborate how exactly that's against the Constitution?
When you come here, you're supposed to be documented, and they're not. So we're going to just give them driving privileges all of a sudden?
You want documentation. That's what a driver's license is. It's not only having the capability of driving, but it also has personal information like their name, their address,
Are you suggesting that maybe this is a move to get some of those illegals documented?
I don't think so exactly, at least not for migrant status, because the driver's license have to disclaim that the person is not a legal resident of the country. The new law does not apply to enhanced driver's license or real ID, which both require proof of U.S. citizenship. The type of license anyone can be able to obtain would be a non-compliant Class D state's driver's license. That's literally saying they have no federal ID. I saw a lot of worries where, this is going to be a way for illegals to vote. No, because in states like Minnesota that have voter ID laws, it's not going to allow them to vote because it wouldn't be the proper ID for voting because it's a non-compliant.
Thank God for that.
I mean, I personally wouldn't have a problem with that, honestly. I think
illegals voting.
I think if you're on American soil,
wow,
you should be allowed to vote.
Man, I don't really know, to be fair, because it said it was unconstitutional, but I know a lot of people would have. Like my dad, that would have probably flew out of his mouth quite quick, or most conservatives. Really, it could just be a lot of buzzwords. I don't know, because they're already illegal, and if they get pulled over, you should get not illegal anymore in some way, shape, or form. If you're coming in contact with law enforcement,
what do you mean by not illegal?
If you're getting a driver's license, you should just go through the process of being a civilian at that point. They should just take the extra step. It doesn't make much sense.
If we're being honest, as far as getting citizenship in the United States,
right. But I'm saying
it's not that easy. It's not that quick of a process.
I would agree. I would definitely agree. This is definitely more of a half step, because I think allowing the full documentation would be more effective and more straightforward. But like I read before, it's compliant Class D license, which means it has no I-9 privileges. It's literally just a piece of plastic saying, this person passed the state parameters for being a safe driver.
I get that, but Rory, do you know that most driver's license, I'm pretty sure mine says it, we're not even supposed to be on the interstate until after 5 years of driving. 21.
Yeah, federal regulation, you have to be 21 in order to drive on the freeway.
You're not supposed to drive to a different state until then either.
Probably one of those things that cops wouldn't normally do anything about it, but if they wanted to be an and try and stick something on you, they might do it.
So right. You're telling me from the time that I was 17 to the age of 21, I was not supposed to be driving on interstates?
According to the federal regulation, yes.
That law is being broken by millions of people every day.
Yeah, we really respect it, don't we?
So all these kids taking off on these cross-country ventures to Daytona Beach, Florida for spring break, 100% illegal as soon as they hit the freeway. Not to mention all the drugs and alcohol that they have in their vehicle, I am sure.
So I read through this article a little bit. Republicans in the Senate and House, this is in the Minnesota Senate and House, expressed concerns that the licenses could be used for voter fraud or attempted to amend the bill on the Senate or House floor to create what they called safeguards for elections. Says they have also pointed to a separate bill Democrats are moving through the legislation that would create automatic voter registration, creating a system that would likely draw the state's driver's license database. Walz, the current governor, at the bill signing, called Republicans' concerns of voter fraud mythical scenarios. Republicans also tried to introduce amendments requiring the license to be marked as not for voting or for the law to expire when the federal Real ID requirement fully applies to Minnesota. Democrats have said concerns about voting are a, quote, red herring, and point out that voters must attest to being a citizen of the U.S. when registering, and that lying about citizenship would be a felony that could potentially result in deportation. So pretty much what I said, it's just a mythical scenario. It's something that's not going to happen. You have to have proof of citizenship.
I'm just happy they're going to be insured now.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems to me like a classic case of conservatives see illegal getting something, and it's like, oh, what they should get is a stiff kick in the. And it's like, oh, well, you're not very productive towards improving your society at all.
We're pissed. I mean, we really thought it was going to work.
The issue is not the illegal
Obama
being
started
here.
it.
I think if anybody started, it was Bush.
Yeah, but Obama supported it. A lot of people think that that's just a Republican opinion when it's not. A lot of Democrats also were doing that way before.
See, the issue is saying that, though, it is largely a Republican talking point. I mean, immigration is always one of the top 5 issues for Republicans, which is why Democrats...
But on the flip, we both use it as a tool. Let me reiterate. We're just using the flip coin argument. What a Republican sees as bad, a Democrat inherently sees as good, and that's just by coincidence. And, we can't seem to get past that.
Not necessarily. Biden is keeping a lot of Trump-era immigration legislation, and immigration is one of those issues that Democrats always tend to appeal to on conservative side. One of many issues. I mean, Obama did it with healthcare too, but it's something that it's like, yes, Democrats are supporting it because Republicans are being gung-ho about it. Immigration is one of those axiomatic values of a lot of Republicans, and Democrats are like,
sanctuary
cities. If we don't appeal to that, then we're not going to get
about
those
sanctuary?
votes.
When the whole sanctuary loop came out, basically, that it is possible to use as an exploit for voting. Not saying that it is or has. I'm not talking about mail-in. I'm talking strictly about immigrants. If you were controlling, think of it as a game, like Risk. It's a numbers game. That's it. So if you allow a flood of them to live in an area because that area is a sanctuary, okay? That's a good thing. But if you allow them any way possible to vote, that's no longer a good thing because you're exploiting.
That 400,000 people is the size of Minneapolis. So Minnesota around voter time, everything around the Twin Cities will turn red. And Minneapolis and St. Paul, boy, you can guarantee blue.
Well, that's not because of the migrant populations per se.
That is a lot to do with it being a sanctuary city. I don't know if it is actually declared one, but when we're talking about 400,000 immigrants.
You're saying immigrants in total? Because sanctuary cities are typically illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants only make up 80,000 in this entire state of Minnesota.
Rory, how do you get that number? Real deal, mother.
What?
How do you know?
The illegal number?
Yeah, how do you know the undocumented amount?
Because there's still census data.
You realize they lie on that too, or they're allowed to lie.
So you're making the argument that we can't trust any data that comes out about this.
I'm making the argument that fear is a good motivator to lie.
But who's the one fear-mongering? The politicians allowing illegal immigrants to vote, or the people saying that there's going to be these spooky, slippery slip scenarios that are objectively impossible from happening?
I think using them as some kind of pawn in a game is pretty bad, too. I'm all for making immigration easier, by the way. I'm not that type. What I'm tripping on is the fact that, both sides be using them as just a numbers game.
I kind of disagree with that because I have to disagree with that. Yeah, Democrats will use those numbers, but I don't think that immigrants necessarily all vote blue. There's plenty of conservative immigrants that come here, especially ones that are very religious. Religiosity
Rory,
tends to correlate with conservative values.
I'm not saying that those people do not exist and that there is not a large number of them, but relatively speaking, I'd bet my left cheek that 75% are blue.
So you think that the majority, are you saying illegal immigrants or just immigrants in general are typically more
Let
Democratic?
me ask you a question. Real question, okay? This is theoretical. If you have two groups, group A gets benefits when they go to this location. It doesn't matter where the location is. Somebody said, "Hey guys, we want you to come over here. And if you do, we'll make sure that like we don't charge you as much as the people we already got there, and like we'll make sure that we watch your back and that you don't get beat up on or nothing. We'll take care of you." We just
Catering.
okay, you're basically bribing or catering.
By
You're making
giving-
sure they're taken care of like a servant. You're making sure they're treated better than we are.
By giving them basic social privileges like the ability to drive.
It's not.
You guys keep using the word bribe. A bribe is specifically persuading someone to act in one's favor, typically illegally or dishonestly, by a gift of money or other inducement.
Come here illegally. We'll give you driving privileges.
But that's not what they're doing. They're not
not
advertising.
saying
They're not
that.
advertising to foreign countries. Come over here, you can have a driver's license. And having a pragmatic way of giving these people that need to use transportation in order to operate within the society something that we benefit from, and giving them the documentation needed to be safer drivers and therefore make the road safer. They're not bribing the population. They're literally giving them privileges that other demographics are allowed to use.
Then how do I?
Rory, that sounds like a lot of globalist woke shit to
Hey,
me.
Good.
if that's the case, please tell me, how do I use the tax break? Because I don't get the 7-year tax break unless I'm an immigrant,
What tax
and that would be
break?
useful. You literally get a 7-year tax break to own a business when you come over here as an immigrant.
So
We don't get that.
do new immigrants pay no taxes for the first 7 years in the USA? Immigrants, i.e. foreign citizens with a permanent residence status, as well as most other foreign citizens who spend a substantial amount of time in the USA, 4 to 6 months per year, are considered resident aliens for tax purposes and are taxed in practically the same way as US citizens. If you've heard something about aliens in the US taxation and, quote, the first 7 years, actually it's usually 5, 4, 2 years, this may have come from someone's misunderstanding of the concept exempt individual or the misunderstanding of how tax treaties or social security treaties work. The quote exempt individual business has to do with how some aliens may be considered, quote, non-residents for tax purposes, even if they have been physically present in the United States for the entire year or several years. So we talked about this a few days ago a little bit, but this is an issue of them not being properly documented, not them being in the country. It's an issue of they're not being taxed on their Social Security because they're not benefiting from Social Security. If you give them citizen status, then they would pay into Social Security, once again improving our overall system.
Right. And I support citizenship. I do not support sanctuary cities. I do not support
But sanctuary cities exist because of the poor documentation system and are necessary for treating those people humanely because they are human regardless of their citizenship status.
Right. So you shouldn't treat them like pawns or tools.
How are they treating them like pawns
Not
or tools,
you,
though?
Rory.
I know, but you're saying the
I'm not
Democratic
saying you.
politicians. How are the Democratic politicians using them as pawns or tools?
It's literally free votes. It's numbers.
But,
It
it's,
ain't
but they
numbers
can't.
game.
Joey, we just went over this. They can't vote. It's impossible for them to vote legally.
Mail-in
they do-
voters. I'm just saying. You
No,
don't think
mail-in-
that there's never been a case. Has there ever been a case of illegal aliens voting and it being counted?
There's been small situations where illegals tried voting and it was a felony.
Describe small, please.
Voter fraud is a relatively non-issue. It's virtually impossible to commit voter fraud.
Dude, nobody fucking goes after voter fraud. We have made
yes,
that
yes,
evident,
they
though.
do. Yes, the federal government treats voter fraud very seriously. In fact,
Can you
most
give
of-
me some examples, please, of where they have caught people? I need that because I've never heard of it.
Ironically enough, in the 2020 election, a lot of the voter fraud were people trying to commit fraud for Trump. So a woman was arrested for voter fraud scheme. An Iowan woman was arrested in Sioux City for her role in an alleged voter fraud scheme during the Iowa 2020 primary and general election, allegedly perpetrated a scheme to generate votes in the primary election in June 2020, when her husband was an unsuccessful candidate for Iowa's 4th U.S. congressional district, and subsequently the 2020 general election, when her husband was a successful candidate for the county. Taylor allegedly submitted or caused others to submit dozens of voter registrations, absentee ballot forms, and absentee ballots containing false information. For example, although these documents required the signer to affirm that he or she was a person named in them, Taylor signed them for voters without their permission and told others that they could sign on behalf of relatives who were not present. Taylor was charged in the incident with 26 counts of providing false information and registering and voting, 3 counts of fraudulent registration, and 23 counts of fraudulent voting. If convicted, she faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison for each count. That seems like pretty serious charges against somebody who committed voter fraud.
Rory, I don't have much faith, I guess, in the fact of them detecting fraud based solely off the PPP loan. My dude, I know some dumb people that got a lot of money and they did not get prosecuted for what they did. And so that's all I'm saying. And if they don't get caught and they're dumb as
I think a PPP loan is a little bit different than voting.
it's federal. Now
Okay,
let's move
okay.
on.
Okay.
So my final comment on the whole driver's license thing, and really this is just a general illegal conversation, and that is what conservatives off the most is being in a struggling situation themselves and not having any aid from the federal government and seeing illegals being rewarded with driver's licenses and 7-year tax breaks.
I
some
completely
point,
reject
you guys-
this idea that we treat immigrants, especially illegal immigrants, better than we do U.S. citizens. I don't see it, because they literally have to fight just for the ability to get a freaking driver's license, not even the ability to have even
Not
rights.
anymore.
It's essentially
I wouldn't have-
essentially a social privilege, and that's like the bare minimum that you would give any
Rory,
human being.
Without the Freemasons, I wouldn't have a driver's license. I couldn't afford it. And they paid for my driver's ed. So I don't know what you mean. There's people here that cannot afford it because it's a social issue.
Yes.
It's rich versus poor. It's
Okay.
nothing about
I get that, but are they actively paying illegal immigrants to get driver's license? That would be an example of them being treated better than U.S. citizens, but they're not. They had to fight just for the ability to get a driver's license, which means that up until recently, immigrants in Minnesota were treated objectively worse than U.S. citizens in this specific issue.
don't they get provided federal is there any kind of monetary assistance that these people get that they don't have to pay back?
That would depend on the state that they're within. I know certain states
Well-
like California and Oregon will provide WIC subsidies and basic Project 9 housing and stuff like that, housing subsidies towards
Well,
people
when
regardless
you
of
say that's-
immigration status, but they can't get welfare benefits like food stamps. They can't apply for social security programs. They can't do anything like that. Basically, any government program that requires you to provide U.S. citizenship, they cannot use, which means U.S. citizens that provide citizenship have more advantage than illegal immigrants that have no citizenship. Know how much better off they are here economically than
Yeah.
in their home
I
country in
do.
a lot of situations,
Correct.
especially
So what I'm
Hispanic
getting at,
immigrants. Do you know a
It sh-
peso costs 10 cents to the dollar? You
Yes,
can go buy a
but it
pair of
shouldn't
boots in
affect-
Mexico for $2.
the citizenship thing has got to be fixed because until then it negatively affects the citizens and the ones that did it legally. Like the ones who went through the process already, they hate when people just come over here illegally. They don't like that. It makes everything they did pointless.
I don't think it makes it pointless. It is a bit of a snub in the nose, I guess. But when you're talking about wages or economic effects, that directly affects other immigrant communities. It actually improves and increases wages in other areas in normal citizenry employment, such as doctoral positions, even low-end skilled labor positions. The wages tend to go up whenever you introduce immigrants into the workplace, both legal and illegal.
How do they get here? I'm saying besides amnesty,
depends.
which I don't really understand that.
The vast majority of people currently here that are undocumented get here legally through work visas. That's why I thought it was always funny whenever Trump tards would talk about the wall, because 60 to 70% of illegal immigrants get here through the airport.
Wait, what? They just fly in?
Yes, they fly out on temporary work visas and then just overstay them. They're still contributing to society. They're just not being documented by the federal government because the federal government isn't taking the time to do it. Democrats aren't pushing for actual legislation that would fix this loophole, and Republican politicians just say they shouldn't be here to begin with, let them suffer, and anything Democrats try and do that gives them humane treatment or any kind of social privilege is counterproductive, because we should just deport them and kick them out of the country.
I didn't say that. God.
I didn't say you did. I said Republican politicians.
Then is the work visa. Like that whole system
No.
is moving.
How can you sit here and say that you want an open process towards
Hear me out.
documentation,
No,
but then say you don't
just
want a
assumed-
work visa program?
You just assumed. I said the problem is the work visa program, because how in the fuck do you get on an airplane and fly over here for a work visa, and then somehow we just lose you?
Do you think we
If
need
they
to?
want to be a citizen, it should
That's
proceed.
like saying, hey, bro, I work at this bank, and between 9 and 10, the cameras glitch out. Them bitches don't work. Just come on through. It's a hall
Just-
pass.
I don't really see that analogy, but I don't.
Rory,
we already
how
went-
are you okay with treating people that aren't from here better than the people that were born here and raised here?
I don't.
He's gonna argue the
I
term
don't-
better.
We don't treat non-citizens better than actual citizens. I don't know where this lie
7-year
is coming
income
from.
tax break. 7 years.
Ethan, we just got over debunking that.
Yeah.
You guys don't
That's-
listen. You
that's-
don't listen.
That's funny, Rory.
Arguing with conservatives, it's like, God, you just don't retain information. All right, I think we can go ahead and move on from this.
Okay, well, you refuse to acknowledge the possibility of any other possibility. Like, you're just like, nope, it's this. That's what you do.
It's like, oh, if you could only entertain my hypothetical boogeyman scenario, and it's like, actually, no, if you look at like objectively how the system works, that's not a possibility because the system prevents it from happening. And you're like, oh, you're just closed-minded. You just rely on these people saying how it works.
You expect others to be you, and that is not how, like, dude,
All
you
right.
have
No, I
too
don't.
much faith in humanity.
Listen here, before we end this segment, why do conservative people hate Mexican jokes?
I have no earthly idea.
Because they always cross the line.
God damn you. You proud of yourself?
Like, the ones that were born there, the ones that actually seen it, they're so grateful and happy. And that's what I like. I don't like an immigrant that comes over here and they just hate America.
America gives plenty of reason to, I don't know about
Then
hate,
why come
but
here to hate?
they come here for the economic advantage.
But,
Do you want to
okay, but
just
then-
grab an
but they-
outro with me?
You can still come here for the economic advantage and,
Sure.
and acknowledge that the country is a complete towards people of that migration
but-
status.
But Rory, that means that you chose this to get fucked by. So be grateful. Like,
They probably view it as fucking America, I guess, because they're coming to get the economic benefits. But they're not really,
Right,
because
and-
America also benefits from the jobs.
look, all I'm saying, like, respect and a smile is everything.
I
And I'm not saying respecting me. I'm just saying respect to the fellow man. Like,
That's a weird authoritarian mindset, in my opinion.
how?
You have to show respect.
Until they come at me aggressively, then I'm going to. It's basically you treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the way they're treating people. We're talking about their
Right,
attitude
well,
towards
I would
the
like to
American
be-
government.
Right. And what I'm saying is if they're fucking America, then they want to be. That's what you're insinuating.
I was being more tongue-in-cheek about that, but I don't think migrants are fucking America. I think they're coming here for economic prosperity, and a lot of them still recognize that even though they are benefiting economically, America still has a lot of backwards policy, mostly due to propaganda that is anti-immigration, and they acknowledge that and
Will
say, oh,
agree.
this country still kind of sucks even though I actually make a good paycheck here. And then you're like,
Do
oh,
you
the
remember-
nerve, you're here making money and you're still talking shit about America. Like, yeah, America gives some pretty good reasons to be talked shit about. Even
Do
me
you know
being a
about the
natural born
yellows?
citizen, I still talk shit about America. It's still a capitalistic hegemonic structure that is extremely fucked up. I don't think
The yellow
I don't think
bear-
the main issue is you need to respect America. That's authoritarian. You should have the freedom to feel however you feel about America. That's kind of the whole point of freedom.
That doesn't mean you should just treat it shitty because then
Yeah,
you're
yes,
going to
yes,
get
it
shit in
does.
return.
Just the same way
Bro.
as you can burn an American flag. That's what freedom means. Freedom says
Rory,
fuck you. Thank you
doesn't
for the
mean-
freedom to say fuck you.
right, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but that doesn't mean that you should do those things and expect good to come your way. That makes no sense.
We never said good
Like,
to come
if
the
you
way.
act-
We're just talking about the right to be able to say it.
And you have it by all means. I'm not saying you don't, but doing it just because you can is the dumbest I've ever heard.
But that's kind of the whole point of the freedom, though.
No, it's not. Because that just means, okay, you're going to do everything that I say except what I explicitly say don't.
a lot of people would say that Colin Kaepernick taking that knee on the field was a stupid move, but I would say that man started a movement.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's still a
he
meme.
brought a lot of light to the whole Black Lives Matter movement and the racial injustices that happen in our country.
Yeah, if only he was good at football.
But a lot of people would say that he is stupid for taking that knee and, you know what I'm saying, losing his contract and all that good shit.
Different
He got
opinions.
more
I don't
money.
know.
Actually,
I got
out of what-
That is true. He got his Nike membership or his Nike
Yeah.
sponsorship afterwards too, so he profited off of that political stand.
and that
That's
was
an
kind of my whole point.
That's an example of social manipulation.
But yeah, Hanky Yankee, checking out. Got to go plow some snow. Catch you guys next week.
Did you see that picture I just sent to the chat by chance?
Now let me pull it up.
Read it. That actually made my heart drop because that is a very scary statistic.
So
Like-
while prescription opioid deaths remain stable from 2011 to 2021, synthetic opioid deaths increased from 2,600 overdose deaths
Bruh.
per year to 76,000 per year. Fentanyl
Look at-
constitutes the majority of all drug overdose deaths in the United States since it overtook heroin in 2018.
Isn't that like a multiple of 30? Like 30-plied, right?
Yeah, something like that. That's
Insane.
that's crazy.
That's nutty.
That
Like the synthetic, that was definitely war on the people. Like, come on, man. I didn't know it was that high.
That's a failing of the U.S. drug policy.
Man, they were encouraging this shit, and I don't even care. Like, you know it. And it's a weird way to say that, but going back to, if you scroll up that article I clicked, it's the history of opium. Like, I was just curious reading some shit, and Reddit pulled that up. And I'm like, man, I've never really read about the poppy. And I started reading it, and I was like, wait a minute. Because that goes back all the way to the ancient Sumerians. They wrote about it and called it the joy plant. And basically, people have been fighting over this damn substance since we discovered morphine. Like, the Chinese used to basically run the world based off their opium. And then the English got involved, and then America invented heroin. And Chinese took it back with fentanyl. And then, like, bro, this whole cat and mouse game, I don't really understand the specifics, but I definitely see it.
So there's obviously a steady
Holy
incline since the pandemic, but fentanyl is far and away the leader in this. I love how they put antidepressants on here. Are people abusing antidepressants? I didn't realize that was a thing.
No, it's a known thing to kill yourself.
So that counts as an overdose as you commit suicide from the antidepressant?
Of course, that's literally considered, it's not an accidental overdose. That's why it doesn't say that. You can kill yourself by chugging a bottle, well, not chugging, but taking a bunch of damn acetaminophen.
I guess that is true.
Look it up. Look at what the symptoms are. I wonder what happens if
Can you
you,
overdose
like,
on
dump
antidepressants?
SSRIs into you.
This is from American Addiction Centers. Around 13% of adults in the United States take antidepressants. While these medications are generally safe, there are some instances in which people can overdose on antidepressants. So, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, otherwise known as SSRIs, standard treatment for depressive disorders. This includes Prozac, Zoloft, Lexapro, and several others. Selective serotonin SNRIs are another type of antidepressant.
Non-epinephrine.
Yeah, thank you. Not the epinephrine.
Non-epinephrine.
System. Yeah. So signs and
I
symptoms.
hate
of
medical jargon too.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. Signs and symptoms of antidepressant overdose. Tricyclic antidepressants are among the most common type of antidepressant involved in an overdose, and the signs of an overdose can vary from one person to another. If you ever suspect an overdose, it is critical to get evaluated right away. So heart rhythm issues such as tachycardia, hypertension, drowsiness, coma. I think if somebody's in a coma, we might want to call 911 immediately. Rigid muscles, mental confusion, seizures, blurred vision, fever, muscle twitches, depressed breathing. So that's
I thought it's supposed to fix depression.
Yeah, I mean depressed breathing, like issues breathing, not like
I know.
No, come on now. Stop being picky.
No, it actually stops. It stops the depressed person from breathing. I got it.
That is a good way to get rid of depression, huh? Just in the
I mean,
life. It's good thing we're not live.
Ooh.
Fucking goddamn.
I just sat there for a second and I was like, damn, that's a valid, solid argument for somebody who's suicidal. And I'm like, that's bad. What is your actual opinion on assisted suicide? Like, basically, dead ass serious. If someone came to you, and if someone came to you clear of mind in like a hospital setting, and you were a doctor, and they were like, hey, and they just were consistent for like half a year, and they hit you with an argument that we just presented, should they have the right to just end it? Do you believe in that? Like, that's a weird little concept. Or do you think that you should, by all means, try to encourage them?
I think you
to
should
keep
do.
going?
I think you should do everything in their power to get them therapy. Like, so you're saying like they don't have a terminal illness. They're completely healthy, but they're mentally they're like, I can't
They're
handle
done.
life anymore. I want to end it.
Tired.
I would.
Yeah, like, it's rare, but they exist. Like, people who are not crazy, they're lucid.
In that instance, if they've gone through like there's countries like Denmark or Sweden, I forget which one, but one of the Nordic countries allows for doctor assisted suicide, and for people that are in that situation, they have to go through clinical trials, therapy. They basically have to be cleared that's like, are they actually within their proper mind, or are they suffering from severe clinical depression? And at the end of that, if it's like, oh, they're completely healthy, there's nothing depressive wise that we can point out, they just don't want to live anymore, then they can probably make the arrangements for assisted suicide. That's kind of the main thing.
What's
is
your
like,
belief?
where's my personal belief?
Yes, and it's just to be dead ass honest. I've always found it quite odd how much value. I don't know. It's strange to me how people get angry almost. It's like a how dare he or she end the thing that they have control over. Basically, they don't want you to die until it's your day to die.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand.
That doesn't make any sense.
I can understand
You get
that
what I
though,
mean?
because I mean the people around you and your loved ones are directly affected. It is selfish to say like you can't commit suicide, think of the people around you, but at the same time, the people around you rely on you for emotional and financial support. So I mean, they do have a bit of a say in it, but they don't have all the say. I don't think a state or even a family has the right to stand in somebody's way and say you can't do that to your body. If it's proven that you're completely sane, you're a mentally healthy person, and you're in that position to make that decision without any other outside influence, you just don't want to live anymore, I think it should be within your right. But that being said, the caveat is that that's not a normal thing. People that want to commit suicide are generally depressive or have some kind of other mental illness, mental issue,
Well,
or there's some kind of outside externality, like they don't have any family, they don't have any loved ones around them, they're a lonely person.
I don't remember being like, I would like to do the life. I'm just saying, like, we didn't really have a choice, so it's just a weird thing.
None of us consent to life.
Right, so it's just odd that humans as a whole get, like, angry. Like, it's almost not sad, it's like it's always a cringy thing that people want to toe dance around whenever someone does it too. Nobody wants to admit how it happened, or like, you know what I mean? It's just weird. I don't know why it has that weird element to it.
It's a touchy subject.
It's almost like an embarrassing thing, like they're ashamed.
I do notice that trend. A lot of people that they view depression as like a weakness, or they view suicidal ideation as a weakness.
Or the ones that do it, the loved ones will not even tell people how it happened. Like, you know how when you read a damn, like, not a memoir, like how they died. Yeah, thank you. Obituaries. This person passed suddenly, or some shit like that. You know, like, they'll always be vague. And you're like, huh? Like, they won't just be like, this person chose to leave Earth on, or something like that. It's just a weird concept of why the Americans as a whole have a weird view of death.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we are how we are. Like, we are the most violent, but yet we censor death so much.
Yeah, it's a scary thing.
Like, real death. We portray this like what we want to portray death as in games and movies and shit, but like real death, Americans freak the fuck out about. They don't like it. I think even funerals are weird, bro, but I don't really feel comfortable saying I don't want to have one. Like, I still want one, but that's mostly just because I'm scared of whatever is next.
I don't give a fuck about a funeral. I'll donate my shit to science. They can spread my ashes. I don't care.
Yeah, but
I don't want them spending multiple
like, I don't really
thousands of
wanna-
dollars for some stupid ceremony.
What if you get cremated, right? And it's like, somehow, some way, you didn't need your skin or nothing, but you needed your bones, right? Like, that's your body. Like, you know, your soul be controlling it. And you don't have no body, and so you just look like a damn ghost.
That's
Because you burned your shit up.
That's a really strange Pascal's wager.
It is, but theoretically speaking, what if it hurts? I know I'm dead, but like, I don't like fire.
Well, until I
That
get
stink.
there, I'm not gonna know. You can
I
literally
would like
make
to be
any
a weed
decision.
tree.
You can make any decision in your life based on hypotheticals of what could happen. But I'd rather live my
You know what
life
we
based
could
on
do?
what I can see.
I'm 100% serious. This would be cooler than shit. We should buy one of those bio urns and like become a weed plant. I am 100% serious.
That would be
It's like
really
this
fucking
urn.
cool.
You put your. Have you seen them?
Yeah,
The bio
yeah.
urns.
I saw those a few years ago. Those are pretty cool.
They also make diamonds and pearls like jewelry. You can
Mhm.
compress ashes somehow, and it'll make like a. It's not cubic zirconium. It's like an actual diamond type
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, lab created
They're
diamond.
they're a lot of money though. I think it's like 2,000 and up. Let me check.
Hell yeah! I was surprised when I was shopping for engagement rings to find out that lab created diamonds are way more expensive than natural diamonds.
Yeah, because they're damn near perfect.
That and it takes a lot to create a diamond
Correct.
in a
They
lab
have more
setting.
facets. They also tend to have an unnatural shine.
All right, you beautiful people. This is another episode of the Voidcast. Thank you so much for watching. Check us out on all the socials. Mainly YouTube. Gonna have Anchor and Spotify connected. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok. Check out our Facebook group and the Facebook page. All the socials, the Voidcast. And whenever you want to feel like debating, because one of us made you mad and you want to talk about it, just drop in the Discord. Discord should be linked in all descriptions along with all our social medias. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Please comment, rate, like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. We appreciate the views. We appreciate everything you people do for us. Thank you and good night. And make sure to look out for those t-shirts because they're coming quite soon.